Hey, Rockets fans, man, I wish I could fix this lighting for you, but I'm coming on a little early because I really won't be able to do the game and broadcast the game. But I really wanted to take your thoughts. Any information, uh, all Houston sports. Let me know uh, your thoughts on any Houston sports. I just wanted to try out my new mic, to be honest, but why not engage? I got to go pick up my girlfriend in a little bit, but I'm trying new things and I'm trying to take this channel to new places. I'm happy to tell y'all that I got Anthony back. Anthony Sweet will be back. I got William Adams as well, and I'm working with a few other people to make this channel grow. But I'm doing my due diligence. Like I'm taking my time. I'm not rushing anything. And there are a lot of people who like Anthony already, so he will be back whenever he's ready. But yeah, the Rockets do play today. They'll be shorthanded, like really shorthanded. Um, Hopefully, Victor Oladipo and Eric Gordon really hold it down. I feel kind of bad for Silas for not ever getting the opportunity to have a full roster. And Daniel House won't play again. So my prediction is that he's probably going to get traded soon. I don't really know when, but I don't see where he fits in on this team anymore. He's a good ball handler. He could kind of get his own shot at times. Um, he didn't work well with the fact that he has to be relied on to score. That's really not his get-go. He works well with players that you know create a lot of tension, like double teams, and they suck in the defense on. Like James Harden, he was sucking the defense. Get two guys on him, break down the defense. That's when Daniel House had excelled. But Silas says John Wall will be back next week. He's doubtful for tonight's game. So tonight it'll be Eric Gordon, Victor Oladipo, like I said, Jashante, PJ Tucker, and DeMarcus Cousins. You know, this is a good game for DeMarcus Cousins since he's been so brutal for the last, every game since he's been a part of the Rockets besides the preseason games. Um, you know, I see, um, I see I've seen versions of DeMarcus Cousins at times, like it's that is still there, um, but those injuries have really progressed his process of being the old DeMarcus Cousins. But Silas has given him the opportunity to really take advantage of this opportunity. And I really respect Silas for that, due to the fact that you don't see a lot of coaches like that no more. And this Rockets team is definitely going in a direction where they're rebuilding, but also I think they're still trying to stay competitive. But I think they're going to get in such a deep hole. They're not going to be able to get out. They're going to be battling for the ace spot maybe, or they might not even be battling for the playoffs at all. So like I said, Christian Wood would be out. Very unfortunate. I love when Christian Wood's on the floor. He just, you feel a difference. I feel different when he's out there. I feel like not necessarily the Rockets are gonna win the game, but they have a better chance with him, especially compared to DeMarcus Cousins. I feel like we just need a. I know there are a few big men that are available, like Deadman, Alex. He got cut by Toronto, so there are a few big men available. I don't necessarily. Oh no, I think Alex got picked up by Washington today. So Deadman is available. I know I hear his name a lot. There's probably guys that are on the trade deadline, the trading block. I don't necessarily know who. I know there could be some players available, uh, but like I said, I don't necessarily know who. Um, would y'all like to see Blake Griffin a part of the Rockets? He's averaging 13 points, maybe like 6 rebounds. He's still a pretty good power forward, in my opinion. He's definitely an upgrade to any power forward we have on this team. So I know he's been riddled with injuries as well as DeMarcus Cousins, but he's shown me that he could, take a lesser role, and he's willing to play with young players. And the fact that he's willing to be kind of a leader. I didn't expect um, Blake Griffin to even, take on that role. I felt like his personality was just too big, but I think he's probably an excellent teammate to have around. He buys into whatever the coaching staff needs. He's not a selfish player. But like I said, I compare him to DeMarcus Cousins in the fact that they have a similar game now since evolving. They've been in the NBA for such a long time. So they both have similar games as of right now. It's just, in my opinion, um, Blake Griffin happens to be the better player playing the way that they're both playing. So he happens to be the better player. He shoots a lot of threes. He doesn't really score around the perimeter no more. He takes very few jumpers. He's just trying to get the most out of his career. So, which I understand. A bucket, a dunk is not worth 2 points is not worth ACL. I know a Miami analyst was making fun of him the other day. I seen on social media they're definitely bashing him because he's just not the same player, and I don't necessarily think they like him specifically, just the way I felt. But I got to give it up to anybody who's willing to take a lesser role and take a L for the team, in my opinion, because Detroit's not the organization to go to. Like no player wants to go to Detroit, in my opinion. If a player gets sent to Detroit or signs a contract with Detroit, my opinion, they're just either trying to get paid, or Detroit is giving up something like a draft pick and so. So not necessarily, I think it's a dead zone. When I say a dead zone, I think players get sent to Detroit to kind of just fade away. And, that's exactly what kind of happened to Blake Griffin. I don't see why Jeremy Grant signed over there. But like I said, it was definitely because of the bag and that he was going to get an opportunity to show his offensive skills. So he's obviously succeeding in that because, they don't really have a lot of options. And that's the same reason why Derrick Rose went there. They need to sell tickets. They need a name like Derrick Rose to sell tickets. And also the fact that, he gets to play a lot. So, I think the Timberwolves gave Derrick Rose the opportunity to, raise his value, but also the fact that, they had to move on. They have like, I know Minnesota is really trying to be competitive. That's why they want to trade for PJ Tucker. PJ Tucker would definitely help a young team like that with their floor spacing, their defensive breakdowns. They're having a lot of them. He could put players, not to necessarily succeed on defense, but give a better effort. And that's just who he is. He's such a smart. He reminds me of a middle linebacker. He has that body, of a middle linebacker, a leader of the defense. And when he goes on offense, he's pretty not automatic, but on that corner three, he's pretty automatic. And he'll get you a few offensive rebounds, surprisingly for such a small player. He just has a bad habit to getting those offensive rebounds and trying to put them back up like right away. And, sometimes it leads to a block or a turnover or just a horrible possession. It's a second possession. It's an offensive rebound. So you're wasting the opportunity to, redeem yourself from a missed shot. So, I never seen, there was times in his 2017 stint where he got a lot of offensive rebounds and, he, he scored. I saw that a lot. But I think everybody on the floor was a scoring threat at that time for the Rockets. So he got a lot of one-on-one defense, and he was a big body. So he probably got the offensive rebound. It was a mismatch, body somebody, and scored. Now the defense could suck in because there's not a lot of scorers on this team necessarily. They're not this is not the 2017 Rockets. Last year wasn't the 2017 Rockets. Far from it. So even though there was a lot of offensive players on the Rockets last year, and also PJ Tucker is older, that does play a factor. And they've been utilizing PJ Tucker so much throughout the years. Now I heard this narrative they should pay PJ Tucker just because of what he's given the Rockets. Now you signed a contract, you know what you're getting yourself into, and you agreed to do those duties. Now, should he get rewarded? I'm not in that building. I don't, if he was promised something by Daryl Morey and then Daryl Morey left, that's unfortunate. Send him to the Sixers. I know he's very valuable to this team, but if he wants to go to the Sixers and Daryl Morey could still give him that money. Now it is a different organization, but if Daryl Morey could work something out with PJ Tucker, then by all means, try to do that for PJ Tucker because he deserves that. He deserves, just like James Harden. You know, a lot of people didn't agree with how he did it, but the fact that the Rockets did actually work with James Harden to send him to the team that he destined to, from the beginning to go to. That was his destination that he wanted to go to, and also the Sixers. Both teams were, in the middle of that. So maybe that might be good for the Rockets because that might mean that James Harden and the Rockets ended on good terms. So the Rockets definitely got the bag for James Harden, which I mean, long term, the Rockets will be successful. I promise you that, which might lead to a championship. Now, I'm looking 10 years down the road. I don't even think Christian Wood would be a part of this team 10 years. I don't see nobody on the Rockets being a part of this team in 10 years down the road. I do not. Now, the guys that are coming in next year, the rookies, expect them to be a part of the long-term plan. I want to get Cunningham, but it's easier said than done. You got to tank. You gotta really just take that L and just keep looking at your team get beat up and hope to get. That's why tanking. I hate tanking. I just think it's a ridiculous way to get a great player. Now, if you tank, you better have kind of like I don't even think the 76ers drafted well when they were tanking. I thought they did a horrible job. They drafted well, Embiid, obviously, he was the better player, but he had an ACL tear, I think, right away. I can't remember what the injury was. Then they drafted Nolan Noel. Then they drafted another player, Okafor. So, I mean, they had picked 3 centers, maybe 4. I think it was 3. But, yeah, I mean, it was kind of weird that they just kept drafting big men. And, they're all really good big men. Joel is definitely the better of all of them. And Okafor plays in Detroit, and Noel's, I think he plays with the New York Knicks. But none of them, besides Joel Embiid, is an actual MVP, all-star caliber player. So obviously the Sixers didn't know how to tank. They didn't know how to draft. I mean, that's what it really takes. Like, are you going to use these draft picks? Because in every draft, there's probably like 1 to none great players. That's just the truth. Now, this draft, I'm hearing that it's supposed to be like top heavy, well, all around loaded. But I mean, like I said, it can be, but like I said, from going off of history, you'll probably find like when you have a top heavy class, you'll probably have like 2 or 3 all-stars. And I'm gonna take the All Stars. Once I say the All Stars, because they're doing something great. So 3 All Stars, 3 role players, maybe 2 players that are borderline All Stars, but not really. So I won't put those in the role player rows. So like 8 players top. Like that's it. Because going off the history of the draft, you might get 5, 6 players that played long careers, might have made it to the NBA Finals. There might be 2 guys that played 15 plus years, but that doesn't necessarily say that's a good draft class. There might be no guys who won a championship, or maybe 1 guy who won a championship. That just speaks volumes for itself because the draft is, like certain amount of, like probably I want to say like 60 guys, including the second round. So saying that, Rafael Stone is really going to have to take precautions when he enters the draft. He's going to have to use those Brooklyn draft picks, very carefully. Now, does he necessarily trade those away for assets that are already proven? Nah, not in. I don't necessarily say that, but I do think you build a team now. Okay, you build a team now. You try to stay competitive as possible. Now, if they go the route of tanking, right now they're tanking because they have no options. They're always injured. They broke. They're getting isolated because they kind of, in a sense, broke protocol. They went to, everybody knows the story. They went to go get haircuts. There was multiple players. I blame that on the Rockets organization many times because, it was the reason why KJ was diagnosed with COVID was because the Rockets didn't get the results right away. So that was on the Rockets' behalf. But, I'm not necessarily going to blame KJ. But like I said, the Rockets have to draft well if they want to be competitive and win a championship in the next 15 years. That's just realistic. Now, you could say, oh, they could be competitive or they could be playoff contenders again in 2 or 3 years. Now, that doesn't necessarily say they're a championship caliber team. Now, they have a lot of draft picks. So you keep adding them up. You keep trying to stay competitive. You're making moves here and there. Maybe you might be competitive sooner than that. I mean, a championship team sooner than 15 years. Might take 10 years. It took the Lakers almost 10 years to reach the finals again. So they went from Kobe to, even with Kobe in his final few years, that they're bad. And, they stayed bad, real bad. They built up a lot of draft picks. They traded for Anthony Davis, and the rest is history. They traded D'Angelo Russell. They traded Alonzo, not necessarily to the same team. I remember they traded Russell to Brooklyn. They traded Lonzo in the package with Ingram and Hart. Not now that I look at the trade that they traded away, LA traded to New Orleans, I say, wow, I really think New Orleans Pelicans got fucked because Lonzo doesn't even want to be there. Hart is barely even cracking the lineup. And now I don't remember if they got a draft pick out of it. I'm sure they did. But Ingram is the only viable piece. And sometimes I hear him in trade negotiations. He did play great last year, and he was an all-star. Now, is he anything to Anthony Davis? Hell no. That's what they say. If you're going to trade a superstar like Anthony Davis, you're pretty much going to lose the trade. That's why they said, hey, the Rockets didn't get nothing back because they weren't going to get a lot of draft pick. They weren't going to get a lot of draft capital back, which means, you're going to get what you're going to get. So Ben Simmons, if you traded him to the Sixers, now you got Ben Simmons and you got, I think Maxey was the other player or some other player the Rockets were asking for 3 players and 2 draft picks. Now, I think they're going to give up Simmons and maybe a player and then 1 draft pick, 2 draft picks. I don't necessarily know. They probably wouldn't have been good draft picks, to be honest. Embiid's a young player. He's going to be playing for a long time. And especially if you bring a coacher like with Daryl Morey, they're going to be competitive for a long time. So I think the Rockets did make the right move. Now, they could have traded and flipped Ben Simmons, but I don't think Ben Simmons is the caliber as James Harden. When I say that, I don't think you're necessarily going to get the bag for Ben Simmons. Now, I think the Rockets made the right move. They don't have a Brooklyn draft pick this year. That's good. I don't know about next year, but they pretty much own the Brooklyn Nets future. So Rockets are going to hit on one of those eight draft picks, or it's 3 first-round draft picks and then like four pick swaps. And then they had inherit another first-round pick from the Cavaliers via Milwaukee. So it was Milwaukee's original first-round draft pick and was traded away from, I think it had to do with the Michael Porter trade, to be honest. The Kevin Porter trade. I said, Mike, I think I'm going to be doing that a lot. I haven't caught myself doing that. There's a lot of people who say Michael Porter Jr., but I haven't really caught myself to right now saying Michael Porter Jr. Kevin Porter Jr. Now, Kevin Porter Jr. is going to be, in my opinion, a great player for this team, and not right now, long term too. Now, if he could, stay out of, not necessarily say stay out of, but if the Rockets could support him and give him the necessary needs for his issues, he could become a solid piece for the Rockets. Look, everybody has mental issues. Everybody deals with something. If it's not because of the COVID, it's, the pressure, a lot of things, the childhood. I really can't judge the man. I just know a lot of people have issues. They won't even talk about them. So I hope for the best for him. They got a great coach in John Lucas. I think, he will give him the support that he needs. There's John Lucas has worked with so many players, and, those players have worked with John Lucas, have either came back to the NBA or, had a little run. It's on the player to withstand that, that run. You can only do so much. I'm always going to say this. You could take, the camel to the water, but does that camel drink water? You know what I mean? So that's John Lucas. He's the guy taking the camel, which is Kevin Porter, to get water. Is Kevin Porter going to buy into the fact that he's getting this help? Now, right now, he seems like he's in. I seen his Twitter account. He's throwing up the H-Town. He has on his bio that he's a Houston Rockets. So he seems happy. He seems that he's at a stable state of mind, and which that makes me really happy. But like I said, I'm only going live right now to the fact that I'm not going to be able to go live later, and which kind of sucks. But there's a lot going on today at home. I will hop back on later though. Maybe it might be at halftime. That's usually when I do get on at halftime. So I did purchase a new app on my phone. I'm pretty upset because I'm an idiot, right? So, I mean, we all make stupid ass mistakes, like Kevin Porter Jr. throwing food at somebody. What I did, I bought an app, and it's only a 7-day rental, so it was like $20. But I had got this mic, and I really wanted to use it with this because I don't have 1,000 subscribers, so I need this app so I could go live from the iPad. I could go live from my phone. That's why it's very important to have this app, just in case breaking news and I'm somewhere else. I could just go live on my phone, or I could go live on my iPad. It's just convenient instead of pulling out my computer, that doesn't have internet. All my other devices do, and that's the reason why I purchased a $20 app. So anyway, we live to learn. You know what I mean? So I am very happy though. I'm very excited. I feel like the Rockets, they still could win tonight. I'll be honest. They could still win tonight. I really want to see Christian Wood versus the old team, but I don't really think he has, animosity to them. I just think, they gave him a chance to succeed. Him and the coach in Detroit, I think it's Dwayne Casey, gave him the opportunity to succeed and use those minutes, and he did. He used them to his best ability. That's what got him paid, and that's why he's a Rocket today. I heard Christian Wood was on the Rockets' radar before. I know he was on a lot of teams' radar. I know he was on the Clippers' radar, and before that, before the bubble, I know a lot of teams were just trying to get Christian Wood. So, luckily we got him, and I think we got him on a sweet deal, which he's only on a 3-year deal. So if he plays, he's already playing out of his contract. So when his contract comes up, I hope he gets the bag. I really do, because he deserves it. The hard work that he does. Since day one and joining the Rockets, he's been nothing but a pretty much borderline all-star. So if he continues to play and exceed to the levels of an all-star, he'll be an all-star, because that's what all-stars are. They put in the work. They consistently show up, get double-doubles, average 1 or 2 blocks a game, maybe 1 or 2 assists. And, he's doing a lot of things. He's bringing up the ball. He's playing defense. He's playing offense. When the game is out of reach, he's forced to go back in the game. So the man is doing everything he can to be a part of this team and be a viable asset, like for the fact that, James Harden's gone, his number has been called. And I'm just really happy to for the man's success, but the big thing is the camaraderie of this team. It's going to really have to, not necessarily just start from Christian Wood. It's going to have to start from somebody else too. The young dogs that are on this team, Jashawn Tate, Sterling Brown, Nwaba. I mean, they're such a great unit. They get into your face. They play hard defense. The man-to-man defense on the perimeter, they make you work. Chris Paul had a few turnovers last game. It was a great game in my opinion. The Rockets were getting pounded. But I just seen the fight in the Rockets that they didn't want to give up. They really wanted to win that game for Coach Silas and themselves, and they forced Chris Paul to have a lot of turnovers and Devin Booker. So that's unheard of from both players, in my opinion, especially Chris Paul, the point guard. I know Nwaba was forcing him to do a lot of stuff. Sterling Brown. I'm really excited when I see Jashawn, Nwaba, and Sterling out there, because they're gonna force you to. I know Nwaba was making Alfred Payton very, very uncomfortable and very mad. So it was fun to watch. I like Payton, but I love seeing that defense. I love seeing that. When I was watching Dort for the Thunder playing, James Harden on the perimeter, I enjoyed that. To be honest, I felt like he established himself as not he established that alone made him have a career maybe for 2 years. But this year, Dort is not a pushover. I enjoy players like that. Dort is having a surprisingly a very, very good career this year, this year. There's games where he averages 20 something points, 6 assists. I think the last game he had 20 something points, 6 steals, and a certain amount of rebounds. So he's a great player. So the Thunder really hit a home run on Dort. Now, is he a pushover? Did he have a one hit wonder, 15 minutes of fame? Obviously, it wasn't. From what he's doing and what he's producing for that team. Now, I really got to give credit for James Harden for adjusting, because it's easy for a team or an individual player or even a player like Chris Paul, who played on the Rockets, to be in Dort's ear and say, hey, look, James Harden loves to do this. James Harden loves to do that. So they're doing a scouting report. So Dort has the, kind of like the inside information about James Harden, and nobody really liked James Harden on the Oklahoma City Thunder because what he did to Chris Paul. He forced Chris Paul, and those guys looked up to Chris Paul. I mean, I would too if I was a part of that team, because Chris Paul is such a great general. I was very disappointed when they traded him away for Westbrook. I never liked Westbrook. I can't even lie. Like, since day one, like when he was with Oklahoma City Thunder, I thought he was overrated. I thought he was a stat patter, padding his stats. That's the reason, like, a lot of Rockets fans were like, "Man, James Harden all day over Westbrook," because uh, they had Oklahoma traded James Harden for pretty much nothing and said that Westbrook was their man. But it just shows that Westbrook wasn't the man. Westbrook is what he is, and we all know what he is. He's a great player, plays hard. Is going to get his. Now, does that necessarily mean that you're going to win a championship or even a few playoff games? Nah, like, it doesn't, because that kind of basketball doesn't win championships. Now, Kobe and Tracy called out James Harden and said that style of basketball doesn't win championships, but that style of basketball that James Harden was playing the last few years, it took him to further than Westbrook, because he could shoot. He could shoot. That's the difference between him and Westbrook. And it's unfortunate that Westbrook can't shoot, but um, you know, it's really not necessarily Westbrook's fault. Some players just can't shoot. Now, so he relies so heavily on the fact that he's a athletic point guard. Now, that usually disappears once you're in your 30s, but he's still getting up there. He's still doing Westbrook-ish things. I think it's really downhill from here. Now, I don't wish that on the man, but because he's still in the league and he is not injured, so he's still doing his thing. But I don't think he's going to be in the conversation as an MVP no more, or a championship caliber player. I think that's finally at the end of its road. I think that stopped with the Rockets. Everybody saw what he did in the Lakers series. The what he did was such a horrible playoff performance, probably the worst. He exploded on himself. He embarrassed himself. Not embarrassed himself, but he did so much. It looked like he was kind of like playing 1-on-5. So those were things that I noticed, and I don't really think you could really come back from something like that. So, even if you do, you're never going to be that player that people saw you prior. Um, he's predictable. He plays on a lot of emotion, and those are all recipes for a bad cake. But like I said, I'm ready for this Rockets game tonight. Like I said, I'll probably come back on halftime once halftime is over because I got to do a few errands. I got a lot going on. It was my day off, but like I said, I got a new mic, so hopefully y'all can hear me more clear. That was the big presentation for the reason why I'm doing this video, and I'll be doing a lot more videos, and I'm gonna let William Adams know that I might not be able to go live with him, but if I do, uh, I will. So I'll let him know and see what his schedule looks like. So thank y'all. I'm gonna end this here.